Three of you, by the way, great testimony, thank you very much. Three of you commented on the fact that natural gas generation enables deployment of renewables. Fast-acting, relatively low cost, one of you said safe, safer than the alternatives. Now, let me ask, Mr. Kelleher, you mentioned the experience you'll have with renewables. Does the absence of fast-acting, we can bring it up in a second, backup, inhibit the deployment of renewables? And I don't know the answer to this, I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, does the absence of natural gas facilities
So
make
if
it
you're
harder?
going to try and convert your grid supply to renewables from a base load of coal or nuclear, clearly you've got to be able to respond to increased demand. So if you're going to shut down a coal which is providing base load to substitute in a renewable, and on that particular day the sun and the wind decide to take a break, as Mr. Murchie would suggest, do you, if you will, have in your algorithm, we've got to have the presence of natural gas backup in order to make this conversion from base load of coal and nukes to a renewable-centric, more renewable-centric grid?
First of all, a lot of coal plants in the competitive markets don't really operate as base load units, right? The concept of base load units it used to mean the really cheap stuff that also happened to be very inflexible. So it would take hours to start, hours to shut down. It just so happened that that cheap stuff used to be the very inflexible resource, but it didn't really matter if you're running it all the time. But now coal plants are not the cheap stuff anymore. So they don't operate as
I get that, but if you're going to deploy large amounts of renewable, it almost seems that you would, if you will have a mandated presence of that backup in case the sun and wind are not cooperating.
I mean, there's hydro resources, there's gas, fast-starting gas facilities, there are...
So if it sounds like you're answering yes, I accept that gas and nuclear and hydro would be fast-acting, but you have to have that backup power.
Well, there used to be, when we were talking earlier about there was a notion there were some natural ceilings to renewables. There used to be another...
I guess I'm not expressing my question because your answer is not coming back to my question. Does anybody else comprehend my question, Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir. I think if you look at the emergence of natural gas-fired generation back after PURPA was repealed and the prohibition on natural gas-fired generation was repealed, it did emerge more as an intermittent resource as opposed to a baseload resource. Natural gas-fired generation really did not deploy, except in the state of Texas and ERCOT. So they sort of moved in symbiotic. So they were there as peakers or there to provide that backup. So it did create a basis for confidence in emerging wind and in emerging solar. And I think that now you have a strong force of natural gas-fired generation that is there, whether it's going to be operated and deployed on a baseload basis or, more wind will be built and more solar. I do think they work together. There are going to be downtimes for wind and downtimes for solar. Storage may emerge so that you will depend less on the gas-fired generation. But I've been in this business since President Carter 40 years ago. We've been working on storage for 40 years. And so when it will come, but we need to be prepared in the interim.
Now let me ask, because this is a headline that's out right now. Heat wave sparks major power outages around Los Angeles. Clearly, California has been in the forefront in going away from fossil fuel and nukes towards both conservation, hydro, and renewables. But this does suggest that they had a lack of generation capacity.
I believe that one of the problems facing California right now is that they have relatively low flow of hydro, so that is a restriction on the available resources. Also, Southern California Gas Distribution Company has a number of outages on their pipelines so that gas has difficulty getting in for the gas-fired generation in the basin. So there are some other externalities that are causing a situation right now in Los Angeles. They also have Aliso Canyon storage down. So there's a lot of things working against Southern California at the moment.
So
I don't think it's structural.
I guess, so if you will, it shows the concept that if you have insufficient peak backup, you can have problems, but theirs is not necessarily due to policy, rather it's due to a confluence of events.
I believe that's correct.
Yes, sir.
And Los Angeles is served by Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, LADWP. I do not think they have a very high renewables in their electricity
Got it.
supply. I'm not positive, but I think they rely less on renewables than the IOUs, than the investor-owned utilities.
Got it. I thank you all very much.